Oh, baby, I love that animation. Hi, this is the Best Football Show, and I am Brian Baldinger at Baldy NFL across all platforms. And you can find this Best Football Show by downloading a free Odyssey app and then finding the Best Football Show, liking it, subscribing to it, following it, commenting on it, all that kind of good stuff to help grow it. We're here. I'm here 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Wednesdays, we call it Wisdom Wednesday. Wisdom Wednesday is basically, I've studied every game. Like I even went through Miami and New Orleans late last night, just to wrap up week 13 in the National Football League as we kind of start looking ahead. But what do I glean from watching all this stuff without getting, specific about what happened in overtime against Washington and Denver, that kind of thing. But I think that there's some really good elements to the Wisdom Wednesday this week. I'm glad you could have joined me because I remember literally last January going to the Senior Bowl for the first time in a long time. I was invited to go down there. So I went and I was really into it. I went to practice for 2 full days. I went to meetings. I watched the film of practice. I really got into it. And it was a great year for it because it was a great year for defensive linemen. I remember in all the drills down there, watching Graves Abel against, pick a guy, Joshua Farmer, TJ Sanders. Like, I just remember really watching a lot of the one-on-ones. Mike Vrabel was right there. Mike Tomlin was there. John Lynch from San Francisco drafted 3 defensive linemen. And I just remember looking at it going, because I hadn't been there in a while. I hadn't been down in Mobile, in quite a few years. And I was like, this looks like a really good crop of defensive linemen, especially defensive tackles. Like they just had NFL size. They had NFL bodies. It's not like they needed to go to the weight room for 2 years. Like they looked physically ready for the NFL. Now, everybody has to learn. Everybody has to learn the game. I'm not saying, they're, Aaron Donald, but I just thought it was a really deep class. And so now I'm watching here week 13, right? I'm watching late last night, 9 o'clock at night. I'm watching Miami and I'm watching New Orleans. And I'm watching Tyler Shuck and, some of the guys in New Orleans. And I'm just, okay, Chris Olave touchdown pass. But I'm watching Miami, who's on a 3-game win streak. I'm watching Zeke Biggers in a 7th-round pick. I'm watching Jordan Phillips. I'm watching, Kenneth Grant, their 1st-round pick out of Michigan. 3 defensive tackles. They're all on the field. And they're going up against some good players in New Orleans. And they're all making plays. And then you go, okay, let's go to Buffalo. Watch Cam Jackson and Dayon Walker and TJ Sanders and Cam Jackson in Carolina and Nick Skirton. And then, you're watching the hottest team in football, right? The New England Patriots. And darn if that Joshua Farmer, 4th-round pick out of Florida State, who's a great kid. A friend of mine really works with them, hand-to-hand combat and trained him. Like he's in there playing a lot of snaps. And the Patriots are without the highest priced free agent that they signed. No Milton Williams, injury reserve, out for a few weeks. There's Joshua Farmer in there. And I go, darn, like this, my eyes, what I'm saying to myself is my eyes didn't deceive me in January. And now I'm watching these kids because some of them have to play. Milton Williams is hurt, and they're playing great defense in New England, right? And it starts with stop and run. I think they're, 2nd or 3rd in the league in stopping the run. They're up there. But, you're not going to stop the run without good defensive tackle play. And they play 3 of them at a time, reduced fronts. And I'm just thinking, this is a good rookie class. And I'm, not San Francisco, Alfred Collins, CJ West, like some of those guys in San Francisco. I could go through the league right now. And you're seeing these rookies kind of really pop, really show up. And it's encouraging. I think Miami's actually rookie class is pretty good all the way around. But, I could go on the offensive line and that side of the ball too. Ariante Ursary, I thought played his best game for Houston. And Graves Abel's been basically a Pro Bowl level left guard in Seattle. But, I always think that if teams are going to get on a run, if they're going to finish strong, they probably are going to rely heavily on a rookie class to get them to the finish line. The game is just too brutal right now. The guys are too big, too strong, too fast, too powerful. Guys, get hurt. It just happens. It's a 100% injury rate in the league. So you're gonna have to plug and play these guys at some point. I remember Pete Carroll telling me years ago, saying that he had no fear in playing rookies. A lot of teams for years wouldn't do it. They'd almost redshirt them in the NFL. They make mistakes. The rookies, you don't want to lose games because of it. And Pete's like, look, they might make mistakes early, but if they're the right guys and we think we've got the right DNA in these players, then they're going to help win for us later. And so you look at the Patriots, young guys playing, two guys on the offensive line, starting on the left side. So I think, and I'm just like really pointing out Miami because it was so fresh watching Zeke Biggers get his first sack, in the NFL, 7th round pick. You're like, okay, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see these guys. And so, I'm talking about, it's December 3rd. It's Wednesday, December 3rd. It's Wisdom Wednesday. And, just going back to when I played, like December is the money month. You want to make a dash for the cash, you better win in December. Think about all the teams that had good records in September and October. Think about the Colts, the Eagles, the Steelers, and think about how they're all struggling right now. Now, it's not over, but then you think about the teams right now. Obviously, Denver and New England, you win 9, 10 games in a row like they have. Like their streak is already – they're in the playoffs, right? They've already accomplished their streak. But think about Miami right now. You could talk about their schedule. Fine. Beat New Orleans Saints. But, they've won 3 in a row. And offensively, Devon Achane, I didn't see anybody stop him. Like the way that Mike McDaniel has kind of tweaked the offense in a lot of ways, formations, personnel groupings, it's impressive. You look at what Houston is doing. They get C.J. Stroud back last week. They've won 4 in a row. I don't need any stats. I don't need any stats to say Houston is the best defensive football. You just watch them play. Watch how they just literally, they're like an anaconda. They just freaking choke the oxygen right out of you. And then they hit the living snot right out of you. Like they hit and they just, they're really good against the run, right? But you watch them, they're single high safety. They load the box, they get you to 3rd down. Here comes Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, and they just crush the pocket. Like they're a giant anaconda right now. Offensively, if they get 20 points a game, they have a chance to win every game. And they've just won 4 in a row. Remember, they started off awful this year. You look at the Jags have won 4 in a row, and you look at what Liam Cohen is doing. Last week, got to take their, young right guard and go play him at left tackle and put a rookie in there at right guard and didn't skip a beat. Rookie running backs out there playing, Bayshul Tootin. You just look at how they're kind of playing really. Last year, this time, I thought they were the worst defense that I'd ever seen. Nobody broke down more than the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was horrible to watch. Like guys just running wide open free for long touchdowns. And you're like, what in the world are they doing? And now you see Anthony Campanile come in there, and you see this team doesn't break down. If you score against them, you're going to earn it. And then you look at what Dallas is doing, which is legit. We'll get to that game tomorrow, Dallas-Detroit. They both played Thanksgiving. We've seen this before. They turn around, play the next Thursday's game, so they get a week off. But you look at what Dallas is doing, rebuilding their defense, what Dak is doing. Chicago and Green Bay. Chicago's got a 5-game win streak. Green Bay's got a 3-game win streak. One of those teams is going to continue that streak this weekend. And then you go, okay, we saw Cincinnati take Baltimore apart with Joe Burrow. They played the best game they've played in 2 years defensively. You go, okay, they've got a 1-game win streak. They got their 4th win. Does Cincinnati win out? It's like this is the month, December, where you got to put it together. You really do. And we're going to see teams that were really good in September and October. Maybe they don't finish strong. Maybe Kansas City, maybe they get it together. Maybe they don't. Just because they have in the past doesn't mean they're going to. Philadelphia has put it together, but we've seen them collapse before. So many teams are still eligible for the playoffs. And this is the playoff push. I think it's really fascinating to watch. And it makes every weekend, and we're going to start playing Saturday games when we get later in December. We're going to see football on Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And for some teams, the playoffs basically, like for Cincinnati, the playoffs have begun. It started on Thursday, and then it continues this week. In Baltimore this weekend, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, the loser of that game, they're so far on the outside looking in that they could still get in. You always can turn things around, starting at any time. But I'm watching these teams that are starting to streak, and we'll see how they continue it. And then my final thought here on this Wisdom Wednesday is just the sophomore quarterbacks playing right now. Caleb, Bo, Drake, and what they're doing. You think about Drake and Bo. They're leading the two hottest teams in football right now. Denver, they play the Raiders. They could get to 10 wins in a row. New England's gotten to 10 wins in a row. And then watching Caleb's development. He's not a finished product. Bo and Drake isn't either. But Drake's the highest rated quarterback in this whole league. He leads the league in passing yards, quarterback rating, yards per attempt. He's a sophomore. And look, we were talking like this about Jaden last year. Maybe if Jaden gets healthy, he can get back into that group right there. But, and Penix obviously got hurt. But it's really, we need great young quarterbacks. The league thrives on it. Franchises depend on it. We need Jackson Dart to be great. Chicago has been a moribund franchise forever. Chicago's a big market. They're a big TV market. They're an important market. They're a historic franchise. When the Bears are good and you go to Soldier Field and you're there for playoff football, it's an amazing place to be. It jumps right through the television set. New England, to see them building this thing back up around Drake May right now and a bunch of rookies, Travion Henderson and what Vrabel's doing in his second stint, Elliott Wolf and the whole, putting Joshua McDaniels and Doug Marrone and some veteran coaches there, and to see them develop this quarterback on the fly. Remember, the Patriots won 4 games last year. They had a coach that was one and done. Nothing against Gerard Mayo, but they made the right choice. They've got the right guy in there with the right staff. And, gosh, to watch Caleb under Ben Johnson right now, go from that frenetic, crazy style from a year ago, where it was amazing that he survived the season. But honestly, he's winning from the pocket. He's making good decisions with the football. They're winning games. Look, the defense is taking the ball away. Coaching matters. The quarterback matters. To watch Bo Nix, you watch these fourth quarter and overtime comeback wins by him. It's unreal what he's doing. They're going to win the division. They're going to win the AFC West. They're going to supplant Kansas City, who's won it, 8 or 9 years in a row. But he's you watch these plays, he's the least sacked quarterback in this league. And he's running all over the place. It never seems like he gets tired. That he throws that, the jerk route to Evan Ingram for 40 yards last week, gets him in the field goal range to win the game. These comeback wins against the Giants, he's already putting himself in the record books for comeback wins already. And you watch his style, that dude can get away from harm's way so fast and then make good decisions with the football. The team can't run the ball very well at all. They lost a running back, J.K. Dobbins. Bo Nix is making up for it. He's throwing to, Pat Bryant, a rookie, and, he's thrown to a bunch of second-year receivers. It's great to watch. Great to watch this rookie class. I wish Jaden was healthy, and Washington was one of these teams that we were still talking about, because what Jaden did last year in Washington to turn that franchise around can't be understated, can't be talked about enough. It's really, really important what he did and we'll see. Hopefully he can get back out there. Marcus Mariota played really well the other day. They had a great chance to win that game. But anyways, I just want to, say that when you get these kids on the field right now, we might see a playoff game between New England and Denver. And just think about it. It's like I remember when I was young growing up, we had a Super Bowl where it was Joe Montana and Dan Marino, 1984. Miami, playing against San Francisco. And it was an amazing Super Bowl. And they were the two best young quarterbacks in the game. And we might have a case where Bo Nix and Drake May get together in a playoff game this year. And we could be talking about maybe the future of Hall of Fame players, the way that they're playing, the start that they're getting off on, and how many games they're winning. So anyways, we're in a good spot with these young guys. We've got to hope that some of these kids this year drafted, I see signs of Tyler Shuck, like he could be really good. He's being well coached by Kellen Moore, but Jack Sedart has certainly shown signs. So anyways, I feel like we get great young quarterbacks that are winning games and helping their teams get to the playoffs. That's good for the NFL. Our league is built around great quarterback play and getting eyeballs to the sets and fans in the stands and shirts being bought and growing the game internationally. We need those quarterbacks. All right, everybody, that's Wisdom Wednesday. Glad I could share a little time with you. I was really excited about talking about all this stuff today because it just jumps off the screen at me, just watching these games and these players and, and some of these teams that are really streaking in what they're doing right now. So thanks for joining me, everybody. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow as we kind of preview Thursday, looking ahead to Dallas, Detroit, and some of the big games, Pittsburgh and Baltimore this weekend, some of the big games that we're looking forward to in the first week of December. Thanks for joining me, everybody. This has been the Best Football Show.